Hi everybody, so today we're going to be talking about Guillain-Barre Syndrome. Basically what this is a condition in which it's a demyelinated condition, it's an autoimmune disorder in which people get paralysis and numbness and tingling or paresthesia of their arms and legs, and it's an ascending disorder which it basically starts in the feet and works its way up. So let's go ahead and take a look at this.
Okay, so let's talk about what happens now in Guillain-Barre Syndrome. So first thing we got to do is we got to talk about the nervous system, okay? So what I have drawn here is a nerve. And these here are called dendrites. Dendrites basically receive information, and then what they do is they transfer it to this part here. This is called the body or the soma. Then from the soma, the information is going to come down this way along this black line, which we call an axon. If you notice these orange squares, they're called myelin. What myelin are responsible for doing is they're responsible for increasing the nerve impulse as it travels down the axon. You have two types of axons in your body, myelinated and unmyelinated. This here is myelinated. If it was unmyelinated, we wouldn't see that. And those impulses travel slower. Anyways, if you notice between the myelin, we have these openings here, and these are called nodes of Ranvier. When there's myelin there, what's going to happen is my nerve impulse is basically going to skip over this myelin, or so we say. It doesn't really skip, but it does speed it up, and it looks like it's skipping over the myelin there, but it does go faster, okay? When we get to the end, we have something called the synaptic knob, and then we have some axon terminals here. This is going to synapse with either another nerve or a muscle or a gland, which in this case, we're not too interested in glands, but we are interested in the muscles and with another nerve. So let's talk about what's going to happen here. Let's say here's our person here, right? And this is going to be a guy, and like we said, Guillain-Barre syndrome may be caused by eating something or by breathing something in. In this case, we're going to assume that this guy has eaten a type of bacteria called Campylobacter jejuni, and it's gotten into his body now. So I'm going to draw this Campylobacter jejuni right here, all right? And there's my nucleus, and that's it right there, okay? He's eaten this, it's in the stomach, it's causing watery diarrhea, and it goes away. Now, about 1 to 6 weeks later, he's going to start having symptoms. So let's talk about what happens in that meantime there. On this Campylobacter jejuni, or any type of thing that's going to cause the Guillain-Barre syndrome, there's going to be a type of molecule called a lipooligosaccharide. All right? And it's going to be this guy right here. That's my lipooligosaccharide. Now, when your body sees that, what's going to happen is you have a white blood cell, which we're going to call a macrophage. This could also be a dendritic cell. And what it's going to do is it's going to see these markers. It's going to realize this guy doesn't belong in the body, and it's going to come and it's going to eat it. And we call that phagocytosis. So it's going to eat that, and it's going to call it phagocytosis, okay? So now what's going to happen is this is going to be inside of the macrophage. So now here's my macrophage with my Campylobacter jejuni in here, right? And then what's going to happen, it would be inside a vesicle, I'm not going to draw that, but inside of the macrophage now, we're going to have a vesicle that's going to be full of something called hydrolytic enzymes. And what this is going to do is this is basically going to connect with this, and it's going to release these hydrolytic enzymes into there. And when it does, it's going to cause this to basically break down. Then what it's going to do is this macrophage is going to take a piece of this, and it's going to put it on its cell membrane. And this is called an antigen-presenting cell because it took part of this thing that's causing the immune response and is presenting it on its cell membrane. Then what's going to happen is we're going to have something called a T cell. This is going to go over to like a lymph node. Then we're going to have something called a T cell that's going to see this. And what it's going to do is it's going to release some cytokines, which cause inflammation and things such as that. And it is going to activate the B cells. Okay, so now it's going to activate the B cell. So here's my B cell. The B cell is going to be basically, it can become plasma cells, but more importantly, what it's going to do is it's going to produce antibodies. And in case you don't know this, antibodies look kind of like a Y. So here's my antibodies now. And these antibodies are going to be designed specifically to attach to this lipooligosaccharide right here. Now it's marked so that way if the body ever sees this again, it knows to attack it and form an immune response. But it's going to attack this, okay? That's what's going to happen. The unfortunate thing about these antibodies is over here on this myelin, we have a similar structure. This is called lipooligosaccharide. Over here, we are going to have a similar structure, and we are going to call this a ganglioside. Okay, and it looks similar. So that's my ganglioside. Now the bad thing is that these antibodies don't know that it shouldn't attach to this, because this looks like this. It's called molecular mimicry. A mimicry is basically when one thing looks like something else. And so now these antibodies are going to attach to this. What's going to happen now when those antibodies attach to it now, my macrophages and my white blood cells are going to come over and they're going to start attacking this, thinking it's a bad guy, right? So they're going to start attacking this, and then they're going to start to cause demyelination. So in Guillain-Barre syndrome, like we said, it's an autoimmune demyelinating condition, all right, or syndrome. So now I'm losing my myelin. Now, it only happens in certain segments of the axon. It doesn't do the whole axon. It's just going to do certain segments. That's why I've only done there and not these ones over here. So now what's going to happen is this nerve impulse that's used to skipping over all these no longer can do that. And because of that now, we're going to start to get symptoms. So what symptoms are we going to see? So here's our guide now right here. The most common symptoms we're going to see with Guillain-Barre syndrome to start is going to be numbness and tingling down in the feet and in the lower extremity, okay? Remember I talked about this and I said that this is going to form a synapse with nerves. So because we have the demyelination and this can't send the signal on to other parts, to other nerves, it can't get up there, we start to feel the paresthesia. And this paresthesia, again, is the numbness and tingling. If you've ever had your arms or legs fall asleep, that's paresthesia. But at the same time, we have motor nerves coming from the brain down. They're coming down, and what's going to happen now is you're going to start to get muscle weakness down in here. And it can become so severe it can become paralyzed. So we have the paresthesia because the nerves can't get up to the brain or the signals can't get up to the brain. We have the motor loss because the signals can't get from the brain down into the feet, and therefore you're going to have the paralysis. Okay? We call Guillain-Barre syndrome an ascending condition because it works its way up. So here it comes and it starts to come up. Now the bad thing about this is this can happen pretty quick and you can go within a few hours. Don't forget, we're also getting the weakness, right, along with this paresthesia, and you can get this, you can go from being totally normal to being totally paralyzed with this paresthesia within hours. Eventually it's going to get up into here, so the person may have difficulty swallowing. And then it can also affect the facial muscles, right? And if it affects the facial muscles, they can't make facial expressions. And because this only affects the peripheral nervous system, it's going to affect cranial nerves, which are part of the peripheral nervous system. They may also have problems with moving the eyes because those peripheral nerves will no longer work also. So there may be some visual problems. Now, this goes away. Normally, like we said, it takes about 1 to 6 weeks after being infected before we see symptoms. It peaks at about 4 weeks, and then by 8 weeks or longer, it's usually all gone, although it can last longer than that. And then the person gets back to normal. The bad thing is if it starts to affect the respiratory muscles. Your diaphragm helps you breathe in and out. So if it affects the diaphragm, then what can happen is, and remember, it'd be the nerves to the diaphragm, not the diaphragm itself. What would happen then is that the person would have difficulty breathing, and it can lead to death. Most of the time, they're going to be rushed to a hospital, and then what's going to happen is they'll be on a respirator until they get better. And again, most people are going to get better. So that's it for Guillain-Barre syndrome. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and subscribe button, and we will catch you next time. Thanks for watching.